Good afternoon. I'm Alan Gemmell, Her Majesty's Trade Commissioner for South Asia, and I'd like to welcome all of you for this session on opportunities for UK exporters in South Asia as part of the annual UK Export Finance Conference happening virtually this year. I'm delighted to hear that there are so many of you participating. That clearly shows a real interest towards exporting to South Asia. I'd like to try to give you my expertise and perspective on the region that I cover and its importance for the UK over the next few minutes. South Asia has a combined GDP of over $3.2 trillion and a population of over 1.5 billion people, representing over 20% of the global population. In 2019, UK businesses contributed to nearly £9.5 billion of goods and services exports to South Asia. Moreover, the future trend remains positive as the region offers huge, diverse and aspirational consumer bases, demands quality products and has historical trade links and people-to-people ties with the UK. Collectively, South Asia is growing at a weighted average growth rate of over 4.5% and looking to carry forward the economic growth it has seen over the past couple of years by improving its business environment, investing in sustainable infrastructure and creating better healthcare via the adoption of green energy and new age tools of technology and innovation. The UK has lots to offer here. India, the world's largest democracy and the fifth largest economy, dominates the region and has contributed significantly to global GDP from 2005 through to 2018. Despite economic slowdowns, in large part due to COVID, the IMF forecasts that the 2021-2025 India will continue to be a significant contributor to global growth. Beyond its strong economic fundamentals, our nations share countless personal and professional ties, a connection Prime Minister Modi calls the living bridge. This has resulted in multiple trade, research and innovation partnerships, in particular between India and the UK's young, tech-savvy populations. These partnerships have led to bilateral trade between both countries, increasing by over 11% to £24 billion in financial year 2019-20. Since 2017, India has jumped 4 places for goods exports from the UK and is now the UK's 17th trading partner and 19th largest export destination. A robust investment relationship with British and Indian investments supporting over 500,000 jobs in each other's economies. The UK has been the second fastest growing G20 investor in India over the last 10 years, driving investment over £21.48 billion. Even before the COVID crisis, the UK was India's second largest research partner, and joint research will be worth £400 million by next year. The UK and Indian governments are both heavily invested in the relationship. At the UK-India Joint Economic Trade Committee in 2020, both countries agreed to deliver an enhanced trade partnership and a roadmap to a possible free trade agreement in future, something that will deliver prosperity and social benefit to both countries and their peoples. Likewise, the neighbouring countries of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are unique in their own way and add to the long-term opportunities available for British businesses. Bangladesh is expected to be one of just a handful of countries with positive economic growth in 2020, which reflects the underlying strength and resilience of its economy. The country anticipates a strong economic bounce back from the pandemic, underpinned by rapidly increasing demand from a population with growing purchasing power. This growth opens up commercial opportunities in finance, healthcare, education, technology and defence procurement for while Sri Lanka aims to be the gateway for the whole of Asia. The country's Colombo port is already the busiest in South Asia, with 2/3 of all global container shipments passing within 10 nautical miles of its shores. Sri Lanka is seeking to capitalise on its geography by promoting opportunities in industries such as infrastructure, financial and professional services, technology and manufacturing, plus strategic development projects, including the Colombo Port City and Hambantota International Port Group. To sum up, the UK-South Asia trade and investment relationship is complementary and a win-win partnership. The UK has one of its largest overseas diplomatic presence in South Asia, Working on the ground, my colleagues and I from various government departments are collaborating with respective local governments, federal and state, businesses, corporates and industry associations to remove market access barriers for UK businesses and forge a stronger and future trade and investment relationship between a post-Brexit UK and South Asia. If you're not already exporting to South Asia but considering doing so in future, I urge you to get in touch with us. Find a host of opportunities in this region. Sector experts from the Department for International Trade can guide you on your trade and investment journey and offer advice best suited for your business needs. Furthermore, the financing support from UKEF remains available for you to bid, win and fulfil your export contracts. Over the years, UKEF support has remained vital for export-oriented UK businesses to increase their global footprint, and it has over £8.5 billion to support UK exports to South Asia. I welcome you all once again and hope to see many of you here in South Asia. Thank you for listening. Now I'm handing over to Rahul.
Thank you so much, Alan, for your wonderful and valuable perspective on South Asia. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rahul Tabhane, UKEF Country Head for India. Adding to what Alan has just mentioned, I would like to elaborate on the opportunities which are available for UK companies in this region. I'll run through a short presentation for you over the course of next couple of minutes, try to give you a sense of what kind of opportunities that UK businesses can get in this region. So let's talk about India first. As we know, India is the world's fifth largest economy with a GDP of close to $3 trillion. It has a growth rate of 4.2%, which was post pre-COVID period. And as per IMF, the country is supposed to contract this year by almost 10%, but IMF projects next year onwards, the country will bounce back to a growth rate of over 8% per annum. The government debt is almost 72% of GDP, which is moderate for all the economies of same size. India has done substantially well in terms of improving their ease of doing business rank by notching almost 70 places upgrade. They are currently ranked at 63 out of 189 countries, and the government intends to break into top 50 by next year. The population of India is second largest in the world. It's 1.36 billion at the moment, out of which almost 67% of the population is in the age group of 15 to 64 years. This is a highly mobile and aspirational population, which gives a lot of opportunity for UK businesses who are in the commercial space and looking to export in this region. The annual inflation rate has remained moderately at same level of around 4.8%. In terms of the UK exports to India, you can see that the goods exports contribute to almost 4.8 billion pounds, whereas the import of services from UK to India is close to 3 billion pounds at the moment. In terms of future opportunities in post-COVID world, you can see for infrastructure, the government of India is pushing its highly ambitious program, which is called as National Infrastructure Pipeline, under which they plan to spend almost 1.2 trillion pounds over the span of next 5 years. This program has been designed to take the economy in the next phase of growth, and the government intends to double the size of the economy in the next 5 years. Under the National Infrastructure Plan, there are various subheads, and under each subhead, such as smart cities, metro and urban transport, Indian railways, there has been substantial investment which has been allocated, and the government is trying to get even the private players into the picture by privatization of key sectors such as railways and airports. You can see under airports, it is the third largest civil aviation market. And also there are some new greenfield projects which are on track and have been planned in various Indian cities. Similarly, in ports and inland waterways, construction, water and wastewater, there has been substantial investment which the government is planning to do over the course of next couple of years. And these are the areas where UK companies can definitely participate by providing their valuable services as well as exporting equipment which is required for fulfilling this highly ambitious infrastructure plans. The next sector, which also offers a lot of opportunity for UK companies, is the healthcare sector. The Indian healthcare sector is projected to be around $372 billion by 2022. The demand for healthcare is rising, under which all the value of the hospital industry is close to $133 billion. Again, a huge opportunity for UK companies who are in the healthcare space. I would like to mention that the Indian healthcare industry is very fast in terms of adopting the technology and innovation which is available globally. The AI in healthcare is supposed to be worth $6 billion in India by 2021. A huge opportunity again for UK companies who are in this space and looking at India as an export destination. In terms of energy, I think energy security efficiency is one of the key pillars around which government of India wants to fast track their vision of growth. They are building infrastructure, attracting FDI, and also the technical expertise which is available globally to fast track their energy sufficiency. The opportunities which are available in this space are obviously in upstream and downstream spaces, and also the gas pipeline and distribution area, which is mentioned in the slide. I don't want to go into each and every specific bullet, but there is a tremendous opportunity which is available in the energy space as well. And UK is one of the key partners for India, and which has been the key partners for India over the years to deliver this energy projects across India. Now, there have been always perceptions about India that it's a very challenging market. We have seen that people talk about the bureaucracy, government regulations, complicated and opaque tendering system, lack of good quality local partners and manpower, price sensitive market. It is large, complicated and diverse. For all these points, I think India is trying to resolve the issues and working towards being a global player, accommodating and being part of global supply chain. I would request that if you're considering India as a market for your exports, please get in touch with us if you are facing issues or challenges on any of these fronts, to have a conversation, to understand your issues and also in what ways we can resolve them. Again, there is an advantage UK from India perspective. It's a huge market, which has been said before. There's a demand for high quality British products by aspirational consumer base. The bilateral trade, which Alan has mentioned in his speech, is ever growing. There is 11% increase overall to almost 24 billion pounds last year. There's a strong G2G engagement between UK and Indian governments through JETCO, wherein we are formulating trade policies, trying to remove market access barriers, and also trying to improve ease of doing business rankings within various subsectors across India to make it a level playing field and competitive for UK companies. There is a living bridge, which again has been mentioned by Prime Minister Modi, which exists between UK and India. And as Alan has previously mentioned, we have a largest setup of overseas UK government departments here, which are ever ready to help you in your export and investment journey towards India. Coming to Bangladesh, again, it's a similar kind of a market, but a mid-sized economy. 302 billion US dollars is a GDP. It's one of the highest growing mid-sized economy in the world with a growth rate of over 8.2%. The government debt is very low, 35.8%. In terms of ease of doing business rank, the country is not doing very well, but I guess the government is also trying to take measures at the same time to improve their rankings across several measures. The population is 166.5 million. Again, a similar demographic wherein almost 67 to 66 to 67% in the age group of 15 to 64. The import of goods and import of services from UK are close to GBP 800 million. The opportunities which Bangladesh offers for UK business exist in wide range of sectors, particularly in financial and professional services, healthcare, education, tech, and defense. It is also supposed to be exiting the UN's criteria of LDC, the least developed countries, by 2024. Though there's a rampant corruption, which has been often talked about, but there is a limited competition, which makes it as a case for higher returns and repeat business. And there are already some of the UK companies which are existing and present and operating in Bangladesh, such as Unilever, HSBC, Standard Chartered, Lloyd's Register, G4S, Reckitt Benckiser, PwC, and KPMG. Coming to Sri Lanka, again, GDP of 84 billion US dollars, growth rate of 2.3. The government debt is a little bit on a higher side. That's the reason why Sri Lanka is a country where UKEF is ready to look at proposal on a case-to-case basis at the moment. The ease of doing business rank is moderate, 99 over 189 countries, population of 21.8, similar demographic wherein 65% is between the age group of 50. The annual inflation rate is again moderate, and the import of goods and services is close to 600 million pounds. The opportunities in Sri Lanka are in the sectors of power and energy, hard infrastructure, hospital construction, tourism infrastructure, BPO and KPO services. The Sri Lankan government seems to encourage PPP ventures between the Sri Lankan government and the foreign companies, and this is something which UK companies or UK exporters can look at in the future. Talking about the UKEF country limits for each of these countries, this is a snapshot of what we have on offer. Almost across South Asian region, we have over £8.5 billion to support UK exports to these individual countries. For India, the limit is over 4 billion with an option of local currency financing available. Bangladesh is between 2 to 3 billion pounds, wherein there is a sustainable lending criteria as well. That means that we can consider projects which are done for upliftment of society. Sri Lanka, as I mentioned, on case-to-case basis. Nepal between 1 to 2 billion pounds, sustainable lending criteria and care on location. Bhutan and Maldives, they have some limits as well, but I'm not sure there is enough business which is happening in those countries. But we are open to look at opportunities if you are trying to export to these countries as well. So thank you for patient listening. This was my perspective on what kind of opportunities which are available for UK companies in this region. These are my contact details on the table, which are also given on our website. If you want to reach out to me to have a frank discussion, please do so. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and thank you for joining.